Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do at officehours.global. Our first hour is general discussion about media and virtual production. Second hour is usually something we want to spend a little bit more time on. And we're pretty excited to have, this is a, we have, one of the things that we deal with a lot is figuring out how to get sound effects and other things into our pipeline. So we have Audio Desk Design is going to be with us today, and the CEO Gabe Cowan, and he's going to be here. So we're really excited to find out more about that in the second hour, and you can find out more about what we do at officehours.global. Let's jump into the first hour questions. Bill, what do we have?
Actually me. Thanks, yeah. Alex.
And by the way, it's Audio Design Desk. I said it backwards. So Audio Design Desk is Gabe Cowan from Audio Design Desk will be here in the second hour. All right, let's jump into the next question. Mitch?
All right, first question, Michael Forrest in London, UK. I built a ruthless review-inspired platform. And he mentions a link there. How do you think I could encourage more people to share their setups?
Go ahead,
outside
Jason.
of UX tech improvements? Excuse me.
Well, Michael, if you have lofty ambitions to, share what you have, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist the pre-show pun. The best thing to do is to make a really, really good product and then, use it a lot and, encourage the people who would benefit from it to in turn use it, and they will then in turn share it.
It's interesting. This is an interesting little website here it's kind of so it's squares.tv. Definitely. Let's take a look at it. Maybe some of us can contribute a couple of these and see if we can't inspire people to move forward with that. Go ahead, Sky.
I'm just curious if you're going to market it as Ruthless Review, because as a people group, we appreciate that phrase because we've benefited from it. But on the outside, it feels like very daunting. But then maybe that's the kind of people that you want to come to your site. But you're not probably going to get the lower end of I don't want to be criticized. Critical review is what you're trying to promote as a positive thing. So
that's why I think some of us have to jump in because we've got thick skin. Yeah. All right. Next question.
From months of practice.
Yes, exactly.
Peter Moore is in with a question. He's from Auckland, New Zealand. Last week I asked about 500 series modules. Now I'm asking if the Euro rack and the 500 series stuff can share the same rack. There's a long link there.
Go ahead, Carl.
So short answer is no. So here we go. So as you see on the left here, we have Eurorack. So essentially all you're looking at there is power. So that's just a 12 volt, 5 volt power coming into the Euroracks. And you can see you probably do a dozen Eurorack modules in there. Now they both are 3U high. Now these aren't to scale here. But as you can see on the other side, we have the 500 series, which has a very different in-out system. So the 500 series provides power, but it also provides all the signaling. So essentially what this is, it's a mixing board, a console, in a rack mount or a lunchbox, as they call them. When we go around the back, you'll understand more. So around the back, you'll actually see there's nothing around your rack because your rack's all at the front. All you're getting is power. Around the back, you actually have the out of what you would have on a console around the 500 series. So a 500 series is essentially taking elements of a console and putting them into a lunchbox. Yes, they happen to be 3U high, same as your rack, but they're completely different technology. Completely.
Go ahead, Chris.
I love it when Carl's here and he brings all of his graphical support. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, Tuesdays, by the way. Carl's days are Tuesdays. Just letting you know, Tuesdays. Next question.
Morgan Price, Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Has anyone used something like Room EQ Wizard to assess their office hours space audio? Is it worth doing?
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so I do mine kind of manually. I use what's called M Analyzer. So letter M Analyzer, you can Google it. It's a free plugin. You can just run it through any door, essentially. Just put your audio. So I put my microphone through M Analyzer, and I can see the peaks where essentially the fans, my fridge, and everything else that's coming in. And I can tweak it, and I can actually go into my Flow 8 and actually pull down via the parametric EQ. I can actually make essentially a notch filter, and I can manually do it. Now that's essentially what Noise Assist does, but Noise Assist does it dynamically and automatically. I'm doing it manually. But yeah, the wizards are pretty good. They'll tell you where the buzzers are, and they can make you a curve. You can apply like an EQ curve, but I just do mine manually. But they do come in handy. I also have a hardware real-time analyzer as well with a measurement mic as well, so I can do this even higher quality.
Go ahead, Bill.
I think Carl covered really most of this, but the process of ringing out a room, finding out where your standing waves are, whether it might be absorbing particular frequencies, is something that everybody I know who's really serious about mixing in a room or something like that gets to the point of doing at some point or another, because all rooms are different. They reflect audio different, and even something as simple as moving speaker placements can change those resonant frequencies. So if you're serious about making your room as flat as possible, you want to go through this process. It's really valuable.
Next question.
And it's from me, and I'm asking, Rode just announced the updated Rodecaster Pro 2 with improved features for podcasting and studio use. What do you think?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I think a lot of the improvement seems to be under the hood. They've added more processing power. They've improved their preamps. They went to a higher resolution touchscreen. And they have powered by Aphex, so you'll probably love them. They probably brought some of the Aphex algorithms into their audio processing engine. And, you have your effects on, studio quality effects that you can dial in, and the touchpads for doing, which you had before in the previous one. So it looks like an improvement. It won't be available for another 20 days, so I guess we won't find out until the embargo's lifted. Huh?
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, the thing that got my attention was the fact that you can connect up to 2 computers with its own mix minuses. And I kind of like the fact that your Bluetooth audio, can be assigned to any of the channels for separate control.
Looks like a really interesting little box. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, what Danny just said, the fact you can run 2 computers on it is intriguing. And also, they make it really easy to integrate a phone caller on your cell phone into your podcast, which is a nice feature.
Except you should never use a phone caller. Ever. So anyway, all right, next question.
JJ McKenna from Santa Venetia, California, noticed that Jason places his color card at an angle in the morning. Does he do this to prevent color variations due to light reflection?
Go ahead, Bill.
I would suspect so. Whenever you're color balancing a camera, your mission critical thing is to make sure that chip chart or color card is in exactly the same light as your subject will be. I've seen people do a color balance with one kind of light, turn on their main instruments, and the color balance that they did is just completely useless. So,
I'll go with Jason.
Yeah, indeed he does, because as everyone knows here, angle of incidence equals angle of reflection.
Go ahead, John.
So I got that same card. I just ordered it from B&H yesterday. But I noticed that Jason's video always looks desaturated, low on saturation. I don't know why.
I think I fixed that with a LUT. Does it still look desaturated?
Still looks desaturated.
Okay.
Are you in it? Yeah, you're using new LUTs in there?
The new LUT, I just sent it to you, actually. I want to know what you think.
And is the LUT going to the HDMI output? Because it really doesn't. Wow, it doesn't look like it.
It better be.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'll go check.
Yeah, it still looks like it's a log output. Next question.
Danny Law from Malaysia has a question. Has anyone tried connecting 3 displays from the M1 Mac Mini with an HDMI cable and 2 USB-C to HDMI to the second and third monitors? It somehow only recognizes the HDMI and 1 USB-C to HDMI outputs.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, we've talked about this, Danny. So the M1 Mac Mini has the ability to do, I think, 2 5K displays, if I'm correct. And so if you do the math, blah, 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 times blah, 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 that's a whole lot of pixels. But Apple doesn't limit it to the number of pixels that you're doing it. There is what I would consider an artificial limitation for the number of displays. And it'll only do 2 displays, even if you're doing what we do, where we need to pull 1920 by 1080 to record off of a Zoom thing or whatever like that. And I still don't get it. I think somebody tried to explain it to me once and it went over my head. But there is what I would call an artificial limit to actual displays. That's why we use the display link thing, and that tricks it.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is an artificial limitation because people don't trying to explain, if you're Apple trying to explain this to people like, well, we can't give you this, but we can't give you that. They don't want to go there. So it's much easier to say, yep, 2 displays. And yes, you could get 8 displays if you wanted. They would be 8 1080s, but yeah, 2 4Ks will do that if you divide them correctly.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, and I use multiple monitors here, but I just use the USB-C directly. I mean, these are IPS panels on each side of my system. I don't know if we can see it in the switch. No, I guess I don't have.
Bill, I think you're using a laptop, correct?
I'm using a laptop.
That's a totally different instance. The laptop has a limit of 2 displays. The Mac Mini, M1 Mac Mini has a limit of 2 displays. The laptop does not have the same limitation.
That may be why it is, because I find no difficulty with it even before Mac the M1.
That is what it is.
Yeah, okay. and I think that it's actually a limitation that is not artificial in the sense that you could do it 1080, but I think that they will not perform at the level that Apple wants them to, to say that you can do it. So they're going to make you work around it if you're going to do it, because they can guarantee that 2 will work well. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael is here. One of the elements of large concerts that people have missed in the past few years is the visceral impact of drums through a PA. What techniques are used to both create the impactful drum sound and build rhythms that keep audience interest?
Go ahead, Bill.
I don't know about the second part of this, but I'll just talk about the impactful things. For classic decades, people have used things like gates and compressors on drums to make the sound really big in concerts. I will say it's a careful thing, though, because at some point, attack, which is part of that drum sound, is almost like a square wave hitting speakers. And if you're not really good at what you're doing, if you send a square wave to a speaker that makes the speaker throw out beyond its capabilities over and over again, it's really easy to trash speakers by doing that. And in a big touring concert, I suppose they can replace them if they're getting the sound that they want, even if it's slightly damaging to the cones of all their speakers and their speaker arrays. But be careful if you're trying to go for this in a live thing. You can damage your hardware.
I mean, the speakers for the tours are built for it. Mitchell?
Yeah, back in the old days, they used to record in studios that had very distinctive sounds and drum placements, and they got some of the distinctive sounds that we grew up with using these rooms that had these, and it wasn't electronics, it was just acoustics. And more recently, what they've been able to do is they've sampled them through a convolution and sampled that room sound and injected it into a reverb system to recreate that. So old and new sort of coming together.
If you haven't seen, if you have Apple TV Plus and you haven't seen Mark Ronson's his series on music, I would check it out. But one of the things is he just goes through like just synthesizers, distortion. But one of them is reverb, and they show Capitol Records actually has in the basement, they have these wells that they built that have a speaker and a microphone. And there's like 3 different wells that are different sizes. And they literally pump the music into the well and then back into the mic and then back up. And they build, it's a reverb that is, totally analog. It's been there since the building was built. It was built as part of what they were doing. And I just find that to be amazing. And I desperately want to build one in my lower yard. Anyway, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's famous stories. I think John Bonham, one of his sounds was a elevator shaft, I believe. Same thing, speaker at one end, mic at the other. The other thing about drums, I find that especially like a kick drum, there is a sound. There's 3 actual sounds that a kick drum makes. The first, which you almost never hear, is just the squeaky bit of the pedal. And then there's the impact of the hammer hitting the skin. And then there is this rush of sound of air coming out of the hole or just out of the resonance of the wood. And then, of course, there's the resonance after it. And through compression and whatnot, you can pull out the hammer sound and release that air rush. And that air rush is what people like to feel like at a concert. The problem is most consumer like home speaker systems, they can't handle that initial impact of the hammer. And so I find that on smaller speaker systems, you're best to compress out that initial hammer. And that's why we put compression on drums, and let that ring and that air rush be more of what you think that you're experiencing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, to Chris's point, if you're in a studio and you're playing back a bass drum or recording a bass drum, you'll see most engineers not only be concerned with the lower frequencies, but also the impact frequencies, say around 3K. And they'll give you just a little bit of attack there, and just the EQ can make a huge difference in the way it sounds.
Yeah, the other thing that really changed in the 80s is with the 808, the bass that it produced electronically was also just super deep. And so obviously it became a big deal at the time. Now, next question.
Douglas Carmichael is back again. He wants to know, I've heard that Hans Zimmer live tour uses Cubase for track playback. Being a Cubase is not designed for nonlinear use, a la Alberton. How would they be managing what to play when?
That's Ableton. Go ahead, Carl.
So the thing is, Hans Zimmer's a composer. So Cubase is what he would record into and what he would put his temp tracks in and then put the live tracks in. Essentially, when you're seeing Hans Zimmer live, like his European tour, what you're actually seeing is essentially what he does for a living when he records a session. So they actually use Cubase, and they have a click track in Cubase, and they actually have the playback. And the artists who are playing on stage, it's just like they're playing in a recording studio. So they're actually hearing a click track, and they rehearse this way because they've actually got to be timed to the video on the screen, and they've got to be timed to the stuff they can't play live. So there's some stuff in those concerts that can't be played live. So they have to come out of Cubase. So essentially the Cubase is just playing back like a recording session, and they are recording it. So what you're actually seeing is a live recording session into Cubase. And the other way, there's other ways of doing it, but Cubase is the way they would do it at Air Studios or Abbey Road. It's just essentially what you're seeing is a recording session with an audience.
And Pro Tools will do the same thing. So there's people who use Pro Tools for a remix. We've used it in a lot of the shows that we have here, where the audio engineers that are a lot of times what happens is a band wants to, they want to play live, and there'll be someone with a Digico or something else that's playing for the in stadium audience. And then all the stems will go back out to a remote space where the studio engineer who did the album is there with Pro Tools that they did the album with. When they rehearse, they build all the automation and everything else to figure out exactly how it is. And what happens is it's still a live performance, but it's mixed by the person who really knows the band in a lot of ways, and is really paying attention to the recorded, or the streamed output. And that is the best solution that we've had, for that kind of solution, but it's going through Pro Tools. Pro Tools is not built for that. And it occasionally has artifacts. So it's easy to say. So it's not there's times when you look at someone and you go, well, it's not built for this. But it does work really well to allow post mixers, people who are used to post, apply their skills to a live event, because it does play through, because when they're working on the stuff, it's designed to play through the album through. Unfortunately, they're not really designed to play it through perfectly every single time, all the time. And so you end up with little dropouts here and there. So that's the only thing you have to worry about. Next question.
Peter Moore, Auckland, New Zealand. Follow-up question to my first one. Does that Arturia 6-unit Eurorack power both U3U bays with the included PSU, power supply unit? Is this normal for Euroracks, for example, Behringer's?
Carl.
So the Behringer one that we're talking about here is one I actually own. It has 32 power points inside of it, so you can actually put in 32 modules essentially. Essentially, it actually has 3 power supplies in one. So the 3 power supplies have 1 amp maximum each, and it actually tells you in the manual your zones, and it actually tells you which PC on the PCB, which zone is zone A. You just can't go over 1 amp per zone. Eurorack modules don't take up much power. Some of the digital ones take up a little bit more power because they've got to run a processor, but they're quite large, so they actually take up more space, so you can't fit a lot of those in. But essentially, you can get quite a lot. So mine is almost full now. I've got a couple more modules to put into mine. But essentially, it'll run, not a problem. This will run full 3 amps at the 12 volts. And this is 32 power points inside of this thing. So there's other ones that are very similar to this. The Arturia one's not much different. But yeah, this has a single power. It's a single power supply, but technically it's running 3 rails of positive 12 volts.
Next question.
Liberty White from Atlanta, Georgia. What's the most efficient way to collect user-generated videos? Example, the audience answers a question and submits it to be edited. We transfer, other. They're looking for low-tech options.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
Yeah, we use this for students turning in what we call self-tapes. And it's basically a feature inside Dropbox called file requests. They get a link. That link opens up a window. They can either drop a file on there and it'll upload it, or they can actually go search for the link if they know how to go searching around their hard drive for the specific video you're looking for. But it's really straightforward for the end user. It's not the fastest option. And then you can give that Dropbox folder link to an editor who then has access to download it and work with it.
Go ahead, Jason.
By efficient, I assume you mean just kind of friendly to the submitter. And I'd say this is an even tide depending upon who you're going to be asking. I would use a Google form and just, get a drag and drop, which of course can easily be integrated. And that way everything's in one folder. The other way is just say, use iMessage.
Go ahead, Sky.
Again, you're working inside different languages, and we talked about Google, we talked about Apple, and so each of them have their Dropbox. Each of them have their own limitations, and that's the challenge. But I like the opportunity that you're doing. And yes, we transfer has a 2 gig file limit, but if your file is that big, it's the most direct send and free of experience. But keep in touch with me because we're really exercising this new concept on a thing called Lucid Link.
Good,
Stay tuned.
So utilizing Lucid Link and Felipe, friend of the show, Felipe actually created a link for me that I can send to anybody. I sent it recently to, now I apologize. It was Keenan. I sent Keenan a link and he uploaded 327 gigs to that link. And the way the link worked is it bounces off a server in Felipe's hometown in Prague. It doesn't actually touch the server. It just ricochets off of it. And it goes directly into my Lucid Link box. And I create a folder for, incoming data. And when I send you the link, Liberty, you will go to the website and it'll ask for your name. And you'll go, okay, this is from Liberty. And then you throw your files in there, and I get a folder on my end that says it's from Liberty. So it's super cool. So if it's a little bit of a lift to set it up, but super easy for the audience. And I think that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking for something that's easy for the audience. You can give somebody, say, hey, use WeTransfer, but then they have to go figure it out. And about a third of the people are going to be angry because they're going to think, oh, I had to create an account, and even some of those will start paying for it just because of friction of how it works. But this, the thing that Felipe set up for us, although heavy on the front end, is super easy on the back end when somebody has to use it.
Go ahead, Bill.
I know I'm going to get a lot of shrugs with this, but remember, not everybody is as technically sophisticated as everybody on this show and possibly listening to it. So at the base level, if you want to be as inclusive as possible, also allow people just to send you a file on a thumb drive or something like that. You can get them for $5 now. So literally, if you have any sort of endeavor where you want to hear from everyone, not just those who have robust internet, consider that.
Yeah, I'm really interested, Chris, in the Lucid Link thing. We're doing more work with Lucid Link, so within the group. So I think that we may want to talk about that, like when we do some challenges internally of just having everybody have a link. So we should talk to Felipe about that because
it's super cool. And Felipe could probably come on and
talk about
not
it.
Probably, I know he could do like a whole second hour on remote management and stuff. But when I was reticent to kind of dive into it, and in like a day, I was like, good night, this is cool. And and I don't know, what I do know is that the server that he set this up on is a Synology server, and I have no clue how all that stuff works. I don't know. He just sent me a happy little link, and I click on it, and I go Fenwick, and I drop files on it. Super cool.
Let's dig into that, because I think that, like we did a coffee challenge long ago, and it was really hard to figure out exactly where to put everything. And it would be great for us to do, do these things where we challenge folks, especially in the education hours and so on and so forth, to throw a bunch of stuff up. Or this could also be things that people do to generate stuff for NAM or Cinegear. we could have people posting stuff there. So let's take a look at what that looks like. The other thing so when we have people that are technically astute, oftentimes we'll either make them a collaborator in Frame.io or we'll use Dropbox. I mean, those are the two big ones that we use. When you truly user-generated content, these are people who are used to posting things to YouTube and everything else. We tell them to post it to YouTube and give us a hashtag. We use Downy to pull it down, and we have it. So if it's truly user-generated content and they tag it correctly, and that's when we do kind of, this is out to the masses. So you get to have a conversation with a VIP. We did this years ago with a head of state here in the United States. So a long time ago. And we got hundreds of submissions from people with their cell phones, just asking questions. And we used about 4 of them. And what's really good about it is that it gives you that kind of more authentic connection of that person rather than reading their question. We can actually play it back, but it still gives you control over what they say. You can go, oh, that person, we're not going to put that up there. Because when you open them up live on a mic, you just have no idea what's going to come out the other end.
Do you ever edit the question?
No, we don't.
Play it as is.
For the ones that we've done, we played them as is. We felt like, again, these were with a politician who, and what we wanted to do is make sure that it didn't feel like we were trying to rephrase something or change anything. And basically, if someone had a bad take, we just didn't use it. Like just that. We had lots of them. When you get hundreds of them, it's what we call per sane collection. So per sane collection is the way we kind of refer to it. And what per sane is when you fish for. If you wonder how your tuna fish ends up in the can, basically they throw what's called they throw a fad. So you wonder where fad comes from? It's a floating attraction device. And so a fad is, and we've been using it for 2,000 years. It turns out if you throw a bunch of junk you tie a bunch of junk together and throw it in the ocean, you'll end up with a huge amount of fish because the little fish go hiding in it. The bigger fish come looking for the little fish. And then before you know it, you have tuna and shark and everything else. And so what happens is these fishermen put a GPS on their junk and they throw it into the middle of they take this junk pile of wood and nets and stuff like that, and they're very specific about how they do it. They won't tell anyone, but they have a way, like a magic way that they build their junk pile. They put a GPS unit on it and they throw it out into the Indian Ocean, and then they leave it there for 6 months, and then they know where it is. They come back and they take a little boat and they go around it. They pull a big net around it. And they pull it up, and it's just thousands of fish, come out of the water. That's how and then the tuna fish end up in this cold water, and then they end up at the Seychelles, and then they end up in tuna cans, 400,000 a day. So anyways, the reason I tell you this story is because when you do big events, we try to find a way to do what we call per sane collection, which is that I'm going to put out something that's a floating attraction device. That's the post. I'm going to collect lots and lots of people, and then I'm just going to slug them all up and pull the best ones out. I'm not going to try to hand pick every one of them. If anything's wrong with any of them that come in, we just throw them out. That's not going to work. And so when you get hundreds or thousands of them, you can actually that makes it a little easier. Anyway, it's a very long answer to a very short question. I'm sorry about that. But now you know a lot more about fishing. I used to do a lot of videos about tuna fishing. Next question.
David Brady from New York, New York. For the iPad Pro 11 with Magic Keyboard and Pencil, are there any recommended soft case folio sleeves that'll keep everything safe and sound? Any recommended brands that you guys like?
It's a really good question. Go ahead, John.
I have the Logitech case on my 11, and it works fine, and the pencil on the side. It works fantastic. It's got the built-in keyboard too. Yeah,
the soft case that I use with the Magic Keyboard and the pencil is called a Tactical 511 Rush 24, which is my backpack. so that's all I go. It doesn't really go into anything else than that. I go ahead, Bill.
I tend to I use these big complicated things, and I'm trying to remember who it was that did this, but this is an industrial one. I take this out in the field a lot because we use this. It has a nice strap on the back. It has a thing and a place for the pencil all in one unit. I don't know if it's Kensington or something like that, but I'll go back and see if I can post in the notes where it comes from. This is if you don't want it to break and you want to take it out on the field.
Yeah, I think that he's got the pad. He's just looking for something to go around it. So a neoprene or something that's going to just protect the whole thing. And I probably should do something like that. But I feel like mine that folds around my Pro, I feel like that is protecting it pretty well. The biggest problem I have is the pencil keeps getting peeled off. So that's the only thing that kind of gets me. Next question.
Peter Moore is back from Auckland, New Zealand. I noticed I had to trim my first question down a bit because the URL to the Arturia Eurorack on Sweetwater was quite long, and any chance that URLs can be excluded from the character limit of the Mukana question. I tried Tiny URL, but it was blocked, but for obvious reasons, I suppose.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
Yeah, you can get Tiny URL and you cannot make it clickable. So that's the limitation. So if you go all the way back to a post from last night at 11:30, you can see how I did that.
Next question.
Chris Widener, Lafayette, Indiana, just got the go-ahead to write a grant for up to $6,500 for a PTX cameras. I'm torn between number one is CRN 500, or number two, one Canon CRN 300 and RC IP100 controller, or number three Bird Dog Eyes P100s and the Bird Dog PTZ controller. Opinions?
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, lots of good choices in this market. This is where going to an NAB or an Infocom and getting to see these things and hear how they sound, because if it's like a house of worship environment, are the gears loud as you start to turn the thing and distracting? The other big thing is that P100, there's a huge difference there with the zoom only being a 10x. So if you're putting these things at the back of the house and you want a head and shoulder shot from 60 feet away, you're not going to get it with a 10x. So, and same with the CRN 500, that's only 15x. So you start looking at some of the 20x, 30x models, like the one I have to my left here is a Bird Dog P200, and it's got 30x, and it's got full NDI. So there's another world that you want to look into. Are you taking SDI, HDMI, NDI, NDI, HX? So what's your total workflow? And then do you have any existing models that you want to match? And what are you going to get into the future? The controller is an important question, because do you want that person to be on site? Do you want them to be remote? And can you get away with not getting a controller? Like at our church, we just set up some presets. And for the most part, the volunteers just press the presets. And if they need to fine tune anything, then they actually have the IR remote control that came with the unit. So a lot of these cameras will come with a free IR remote control. And then if you're looking at controllers, be careful, because like I just bought this one and I don't like it. Like I'm used to the joystick being able to rotate for my zoom. Instead, it's got a fangled knob. So it's meant for like two-handed operation, and I don't like it. I'm used to the Scarhoys. So that's another thing to look at is, can you write a grant next year for a Scarhoy controller or something with a better Hall effect, or something that has the ability to do these fine-tuning adjustments? And can you even do auto tracking? So there's so many options. This might be somewhere we could jump into after hours and let you even look at the software, because that's another big deal is how good is the software, and do you want to use it on an iPad, or do you want to use it in a browser? Because there's a lot of control, like with the Panasonic UE150, amazing control. You get into some of these knockoff Chinese models and you get a 4-way arrow and that's it. And you're like, what the heck? So you kind of get what you pay for as you get into these bigger models. Top models being Sony, Canon, Panasonic, Bird Dogs up there, Lumens, and then PTZ optics. But yeah, keep doing research, and hopefully you'll find something good.
Go ahead, Carl.
So the one I would choose is going to no surprise to anyone here on the panel.
We lost you, Carl.
It's going to be the Canons. So the Canon with the 300's got the 20 times zoom. It is a smaller sensor, but that isn't going to be a big an issue with what you're going to be using it for. But the controller, if you actually just take a look at this controller and actually take a look at, there's some pretty good videos put out by Canon of what the controller can do, and you can build this system. So you'll have a bit of money left over with this, which is good. You don't want to spend all your money on one thing. So this will get you started. You could get another 300, of course, down the track if you get a bit more money. Having a 2-camera system in this is pretty cool. But if you take a look at just some of the videos on the controller and how they work with the 300 and the 500 cameras, the new cameras, it's pretty cool. So Canon is one of the larger companies that does this, and this is pretty much a turnkey solution where you can actually have someone who's a bit techie can actually set up the controller, put it into a kiosk mode, and then someone who is not techie control it in the kiosk mode, and it's essentially just presets.
I have to say, still really want to test the CRN 500. It just looks like, on paper, it looks like such a great camera, and I just haven't been able to actually play with it myself. But I just am dying. Since it came out, it just looks like, for the price, it just looks like the perfect little PTZ camera. But yeah, someday I'll get a hold of it. I'll get a hold of a Canon rep and have them send it to me. I'm not willing to pay $5,000 to test it, but I am willing to test it. All right, next question.
Kelsey Malloy in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What is a high-quality webcam, the best webcam you would recommend? Brio is good, but it's a bit too much of a wide angle. Any other ones that are good, and one with zoom capabilities?
Carl.
So this again is going to come at a surprise. It's one that Courtney's using right now, and it's probably going to come down in price because Canon today just announced the R10 and the R7. They are both crop sensor cameras. They're the higher end of the crop sensor cameras. They're doing the top at the end. But yeah, so the EOS M50, the Mark II, you can't buy the Mark 1 anymore. This is a kit version, so $699 comes with the lens. That's a zoom lens. You can get a mount to put EF lenses on there, so you can use a much larger array of lenses too if you want. But this particular camera it's going to come down in price very soon because it's not that Canon said they're still going to make them because they want to hit this end of the market, the $500 market. But I'm guessing this is going to go on special pretty quickly, pretty soon, based on the announcements today from Canon.
And what's the output to it? Is it a straight USB out?
So here's the beautiful thing. It's 4K 30 HDMI or USB. You can do USB out of this camera. I've actually done the USB. I've played with USB on my own Canons. So the same way Courtney would be doing it if he's doing the USB. So it's just a USB. It works into Zoom, and it's seamless. It's just seamless as far as the USB. So you can use it as a USB webcam, or you can use it as a HDMI into a.
And Courtney, you're getting 1920 by 1080 30.
Yeah, but I'm coming out as HDMI going into the A10 Mini.
Right.
But it does have the USB out, as he says. One thing you do have to bear in mind if you're going to use it as a webcam is you have to get a battery eliminator so you can keep it powered up all the time, which is you have a dummy battery that goes in that'll take a DC input.
Go ahead, John.
What's the resolution on the USB out, Carl?
So the webcam at the moment, I believe, only supports 1080, but that's only based on the limitation of the software it works in. So at the moment, it works in Zoom. It doesn't work in FaceTime at the moment, but it is a 1.0 software. So once the software gets updated, it'll work in more things. But Zoom's the key, the big one, so it works in Zoom. But I believe it's just 1080. But I haven't really stress tested. I've got a camera that's one up from that, as far as being modern and actually can do it. So I actually may test it out and come back to you guys next week and let you know what the highest resolution you can get out of the M50.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Does it by chance do both outputs at the same time? Can you get the HDMI out and the USB out to a different thing?
Yes, you can. So the issue with that is I've never actually done it practically because I never needed to. But yes, so when you go into that mode, you can actually have, as long as you have the HDMI cable plugged in, it'll actually pump out via HDMI clean out because you can set clean out in the camera. And you can set it to 1080 as well. So if you set the 1080 in the clean out 1080 instead of 4K clean out, and then you can put USB in, it should work. So because the USB function is simply just taking the sensor data with there's no display or anything. It's just clean.
Next question.
And it's from Roscoe Jones in Brea, California. I'm looking for a small audio device with a speaker that would play a short series of tones as a timing slate into 2 Rode Go2 transmitters, plus a camera mic. I'm thinking an old iPod, iPhone, but is there anything simpler where I just push one button?
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so an iPod Touch would be pretty good. The other thing you could get is you'd actually get a tone generator that has a speaker in it. So tone generators that have speakers in it, you can find them quite a lot. This is one that's pretty good because it's got analog outs as well, so you can do it via cable, via consumer cable, unbalanced, and via balance, and it's got a speaker, and you can tell the speaker, how loud to be and what tone to be. So there's a lot of these out there, but again, an iPod Touch or an old iPhone can do the same thing.
Go ahead, Jason.
You want to go super, super simple and super cheap. If you look on Amazon, the Guitar X7 chromatic tuner, I'm sorry, I don't have time for the graphics. It'll also do a tone generator because most chromatic tuners will.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say, I don't know if you don't really need quality of sound. If you just need it for timing, you could just get one of the personal little recorders and record it record the tones and play it back. Again, it's not going to be high quality sound, but if it's for timing, beep, 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 to sync something, it should work just fine. You can get those for $30.
For some reason, I really want some. I have a Morse code practice little thing that would work great. it would actually work really well. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, and what I used to do for a sync, we used to call it a bloop box in the old days of film production, that stuff that runs through the camera. And we'd take an LED and a piezoelectric noisemaker, the kind of beeper that's in your smoke alarm. It runs on 1.5 volts. You just take a 1.5 volt battery and LED and put it in a box with a switch on it. You hold it up and it'll blink the LED when you hit the button, and it'll make a very sharp, piercing noise every time you hit that button, and you can hit it as many times as you want to synchronize things. That's the cheapest way to go.
I also would be tempted to think about like a Arduino or Raspberry Pi little box with a little speaker, connected to it that just did the thing. Like you just, do something in it and it just does the thing, that you need. And then you can just define it. Anyway, or the Morse code practice thing would be really good. Next question.
Kelsey Malloy in Philadelphia. I want to replace the fluorescent light panels I have in my studio. Do you have any recommendations for 2x4 LED panels? Preferably looking for dimmable ones.
Go ahead, Carl.
So what I would choose would be what Godox currently have. So 2x4 is quite large for LED panels. Generally, you'll get maybe 1x2.5, which is kind of what the Godox is kind of going for here. But these are full RGB, full DMX. They can run off V-mount batteries, so you can actually have the V-mount battery be the battery backup. So stuff goes down, your lights stay on. So these are kind of Godox's version at a much lower price point of a Sky panel. So they try to have all the same features as a Sky panel, box for box, tick them off, just at a lower price point.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I interpreted that question as him wanting to replace the ceiling fixtures in his studio, and I found these on Amazon that fill the basic needs that I would have. They're 2x4, as he asked for. They fit into a drop ceiling, and there are 3 different switchable color temperatures. You got 5,000, 4,000, and 3,000 selectable, and they are dimmable. And you get 4 of them for $269.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, you got to make sure you get purpose-built ones because you're going to get flicker. Like I went to a lot of expense to put special bulbs in my ceiling, and the dimmable ones cause bars to roll around my screen, which is unexpected feature. But also those fabric LEDs are kind of cool. The ones that are on the fabric that you can just pop up there. They're easy to pack, and they work well, and there's a bunch of companies that make them.
Yeah, we're testing, and I don't think it fits into the price point you're doing. We're testing some of the Nanlite 4-foots. They have these Pavo tubes. They're like the little ones that I use for other things, but they're 4 feet long. so we're testing some of those to see if they make sense for some of what we're doing. Go ahead, Bill.
And make sure you test them for sound as well. Not only did the old fluorescent ballast put out a lot of RF, but I see some of the switching power supplies in some of the new LED lights creating either buzz or instability in audio. So just test for that. You get a sample, test it, and make sure it's not going to mess up your audio. So listen carefully.
Next question.
James Babbitt, San Diego. Alex, could you show us the audio, video, and lighting setups for Gray Matter Episode 1 with Michael Kransny and Robert Wachter?
So the biggest thing that made a difference for that is that we used we didn't actually pay much attention to the lighting or the camera. Really, it's really an audio primary show and really a podcast that we're working on with Michael Krasny. The funny thing is the thing that made the biggest difference was the MV7s. So we got Shure MV7s on both ends. We're trying to kind of standardize on something that is easy, that someone can just plug in. We can drop off at their house or mail to them and they can plug it in. And I really felt like the audio jumped dramatically over just something that's easy. I'm trying not to have a big rig that's all, tying everything together. And so that's the most important piece. The rest of it's just some Nanlite. We use some Nanlights that were laying around and I think just Brio cameras. So it's nothing special except for the mics because, again, we're really focused on a podcast. Next question.
Peter Moore is back from Auckland, New Zealand. Okay, then, which Eurorack, Arturia, Behringer, etc. would the panel recommend bang for buck? I'm an Arturia fan, but have Behringer mixer, guitar effects, etc. So yeah, okay with Behringer too. Thoughts?
Go ahead, Carl.
So I'm going to say the Behringer, essentially because the Behringer is what, let's say US dollars, about $330. And it's so what we're talking is HP. So HP is horizontal points essentially. So how many modules can you fit in there? So for $330 for 280 HP, the Arturia is the same price, about $340 for about 170 HP. So you get extra 100 HP at the same price. The Arturia ones are a little bit overpriced, and the people that bought them, because the Arturia one was out before the Behringer one came out, and I know it's a lot of people who have the Arturia ones, the second they need a new rack, they're just buying the Behringer one. So they're adding the Behringer one to their system. And the Behringer ones actually can handle more power as well, because it can handle 280. That's why.
Have you ever used, I'm just curious, because I ran into this searching for some modular stuff, and I'm from Pittsburgh. Have you heard of Pittsburgh Modular?
So Pittsburgh Modular is one of the big ones. Yeah, so they're one of the they're one of the early ones.
Will you come on if they come on? If we bring them on?
Yeah, definitely. So Pittsburgh Modular were making modules back in the day before Behringer was. Behringer's number one now. They're making the most modules,
right?
Versus anyone. But they were making modules back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago, back when it was a very niche market.
Right.
They were making hardware modules. So yeah, Pittsburgh Modular is one, and they've been at every trade show I've ever seen as far as modules are concerned.
I'm from Pittsburgh, and I saw that there was like someone from my hometown is making, and I didn't know if they were a big deal, or I'd ask you and you'd be like, I've never heard of them before. But they're a big deal. Okay, if you've heard of them,
they're one of the bigger ones. Yeah, so there's a lot of niche boutique ones. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh Modular would be definitely in the top 10% of the bigger guys.
Oh, okay, we're gonna get them on. All right. Next question.
The Seventh Scroll, Brooklyn, New York. His question is, morning guys, still looking for a decent HDMI matrix. Would love the Blackmagic Video Hub, but not trying to avoid having to purchase a nest of converters. Any suggestions?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, this is a difficult ask because of HDMI's. The characteristics of HDMI can be multi-resolution. It can be, it has to deal with HDCP content protection, and it has to do handshakes every time you plug something in. The best ones I've found to handle this kind of stuff are Geffen makes some. Here's a 4K HD 4x4 switcher. It's kind of pricey, but it does handle disembedding of your audio, and it does have scalers built into each input. So it can go 4K down to 1080p, et cetera, to cross switch between, a 4K source and a 1080p output, et cetera. And it has 4 ins and 4 outs. So that's one possible solution. And Geffen does, it has to have a persistent EDID that it presents to your output switches so that it doesn't delay the switch and having to handshake every time you switch. So those are important things. And that's what makes HDMI matrices so rare, because of all those complexities involved.
Good, Carl.
So this is one I've recommended in the past, and I believe it's one that Alex owns, is the Monoprice. So the Blackbird.
It's so much less than I paid for it.
Now the price there is fluctuating. So the last time I looked, it was this, but it may have actually gone back up again. But yeah, it goes between this and $8.99. I've noticed.
I paid closer to $8.99. I paid $7.49. So I thought I was getting a good deal because it went from $8.99 to $7.49. I was like, okay, I'm going to buy it now. Now it's $500. It's good. It's a good matrix. Next question.
Hector Rodriguez in Northern Virginia. Anyone using the new Blackmagic design Cloud Pod? What is your experience so far?
I haven't used it yet. Like I'm thinking about it. I'm excited. I'm excited about the idea, and I feel like the interface looks really, really good. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think any of us have dug into it yet. I've been actually looking at. We were talking to LucidLink, and they said that it works really well with the pod, and so I'm trying to figure out how that all fits together. So anyway, we're trying to figure that out. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael, what Mac OS application would you recommend for generating and reading MTC-LTC? Would, and I think that's Hooray, be a solid choice?
Go ahead, Jason.
For me, this was a one and done thing. I know it's a little bit pricey as a playout solution, but it's real, like kind of magic is the way that they've managed to integrate it. MIDI is a fantastic, fantastic app. MITTI. Look it up and love it.
Go ahead. And MIDI will generate LTC?
It will generate LTC.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I'm a little hesitant only because of that Hore. There is a famous timecode company called Horita that's been around forever. Here's one of their units. You can see it's pricey stuff, but they have an incredible reputation in the broadcast industry for doing timecode particularly right. I just hope that nobody with a product that isn't as good is trying to capitalize on their long-term reputation. So just be wary. That's all.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a computer do this. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, Denicky or Ambient both make good professional LTC timecode generators and readers and displays. They do also make an app, which you can try out. It runs on Android or iOS that you can just plug something into the mic input on your phone or your iPad Touch if you have a mic input on it. And it'll take LTC and display it in a window. I wouldn't use it for generating LTC because to generate high accuracy LTC as a master, you need a temperature controlled crystal, and most phones don't have that.
Yeah, I have an Ambient, and I think it works pretty well. I would not have a computer do it because, as Courtney said, to stay accurate, it has to have that crystal, and it's not going to be in your computer, and you will not stay accurate without it. Like it is not like it will drift if you do not have that crystal. So I don't think that it's gonna. I would never have a computer generate LTC. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, +1 on that. I was just trying to answer the question as asked. It's important to note, Mickey's reminding all of us that basically no device will generate MTC. So very different.
Yeah. Next question.
Robert Shoji in Los Angeles. He wants to know what model Genelec monitor is used most often in small to medium-sized studios.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Bill and Mitch probably have a better answer on this, but the ones I've seen have been the 8331 from Nearfields. Studio monitors, which are pretty nice. They make 3 different versions of them, the 31, the 41, and the 51. But I'd love to hear what Bill and Mitch and Carl say.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Well, the first thing you need to do is take a deep breath because you're going to be getting into some crazy prices as you go up the Genelec thing. I mean, literally, individual speakers can be $1,000 plus. I've seen mostly combinations of either the 8010, 8020, or 8030, depending on how big the space is you're trying to fill up. Those are their 3 kind of smaller high performance things, and they start about $350 for the 8010 and go up per speaker from there, combined often with the 7040 sub. A lot of people want that low end in a mixing situation, but you're talking about throwing about $1,000 at even a 3-speaker combination there. And some of Genelec's individual monitor speakers start at $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 and go up from there. So you're in rarefied terms if you want to try to do it perfect.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. You got to pay to play, especially with Genelec, but they're good. I've got an old set of 1030s that have been sitting here for 20 years, and they work great. But in the studio, I see the 8010s, the 8020s, and if they want a little extra punch at the low end, the 8030. But be prepared to open your wallet.
Go ahead, Carl.
So the way I would look at it with the Genelecs is look at the woofer size. So 5-inch, 6.5. So 5 inches where you kind of want to sit. Anything smaller than that, that's kind of really small. That's kind of that budget end. So you're looking at $1,000 per speaker, to be honest, for Genelecs. So you're looking at a 5-inch, which started around $1,100, and 6.5-inch, which started around $1,800 each. So if you're not going to do that, you may as well get Yamaha 8 inches. So if you want to go a little bit cheaper, go the Yamaha 8 inches. They're better bang for the buck. But if you want to do Genelecs, do the 5 or 6.5 inches. Try to avoid the smaller ones because you might as well just get the Yamahas.
Yeah, absolutely. No, next question.
And Douglas Carmichael is joining us. His question: Melodics offers electronic drum lessons for someone with rhythmic aptitude, coming from a keyboard background, but not comfortable with two-handed playing yet. How hard would it be to feel comfortable on a drum set?
Go ahead, Carl.
It's practice. So in high school, I played guitar, kind of self-taught myself piano and stuff, and I had a few lessons. But drums, I'm completely self-taught as an adult. And I just practiced. I just learned the basic beats. I kind of, page 1, lesson 1, and just learned that and just go through it slowly. Watch YouTube videos. There's some pretty good YouTube videos out there of drummers kind of teaching the basics and not going too fast. So you want to master the basics first before you move on. But it's practice, practice, practice. Don't try to play along with rock songs because they're rock drummers are actually some of the most virtuosic drummers in the world. They're pretty hard to follow. But what you want to do is you want to find either a book or an iPad app, or you got Melodics, which is good, but also look at YouTube videos with people doing it as well, and just practice and practice. So I would suggest for music, you want to do 1 hour of practice a day, regardless of what you're doing. If that's, even it's better that you do something a day rather than saying, I'll do 2 hours, on this day and do 2 hours. It's better that you do 15 minutes a day than missing a day. So do something every day. And with drumming, it doesn't matter if it's just pots and pans and you're going to annoy your mum, but just practice rhythm with all four. So two arms, 2 feet. So you're doing hi-hats with a foot and bass drum. So once you actually get the basics down and you practice, it becomes easier and easier after a few weeks. Then you can start to do more of the tricky stuff.
I'm pretty sure that Carl's like 85 years old. He's packed in a couple lifetimes of stuff. Every time Carl's like, oh, and then you want to play the drums. And I was like, how did you know that part? Go ahead, Jason.
A classically trained drummer who really just wanted to be Neil Peart, didn't everyone? But I can say your very best thing to do is just learn purely with a hi-hat, a bass, and a snare drum. Because once you learn to do that, the distraction is all the stuff. You'll note that the best jazz drummers in the world are rarely on more than a 5-piece. There's a good reason for that.
My God, Sky.
As a parent, I'm going to throw a question back to both Jason and Carl. So how do you not annoy your parents? Aren't there the new technologies now that he doesn't have to get the full drum kit? I
have the Roland electric kit, which headphones. So I don't even annoy my neighbors.
There we go. I want.
So which Roland kit do you have actually?
I have the KV, the one they don't sell anymore. So it's a KV. I have to look up the model number. It has the one module, but the one module has MIDI out, which means I can pump that into an RD8. I can actually drum with an RD8. But yeah, essentially it's got all mesh heads. So it's kind of like the lowest price. It was about a bit over $1,000 US, but it's all mesh heads, that's kind of what their pro kits have. Well, their pro kits actually look like drum kits now. They actually look like proper drum kits. Right. But it's all mesh heads. It has the cheaper cymbal, but it has the better hi-hat, and it has the good bass drum, but it's more the mesh heads. But I can change the cymbals anytime I want. I can change. That's the cool thing with Roland. You can change everything and plug it in. But it's I'll have to look at
something like the TD07 KVX. It's like this was like $1,700.
So, yeah. So as long as it's one, if you look for not the cheapest, but if you look for one that says all mesh heads, and you notice it doesn't have the black rubber heads. So if they're all white, the mesh heads are white.
Yep.
So if you're looking for one with all mesh heads, then yeah, I know mine was on special because it's an end of life for this particular product for Roland, and that's why I got it. And it was one of the ones that had MIDI out on the actual controller. The higher ones have MIDI out now. I didn't need a high-end controller because I'm going to plug my controller because I'm practicing. I'm not really taking this out live. But the one I like the most probably is going to be, I think, the 17 now. The 27 is pretty pro. The 17 is pretty good, and I think they've got a new.
Remember, he's starting. He's just starting. So can he learn to paradiddle on a book?
So the one series all mesh head. So there's always going to be a 1 series or the lowest series, but all mesh head, right, which is going between $1,000 and $1,500.
And what would you say is the quality of those? What's the quality of the sound of the drums from your perspective?
So I'd say in mine, I've got 15 sounds in my head. So in the head unit, so the actual processor, 3 of them are amazing. But I have seen professional drummers using my exact kit on YouTube, and they can make every kit sound great because they got the dynamics.
Right.
That's
right.
the cool thing. Yeah.
No, I'm very curious because one of the things that we're really interested in is when it comes to recording, on a stage, and especially recording live in surround. We prefer the drums not to make any noise.
So main stage will do that. So as long as you got a head unit that the meshes that that all the pressure plates are plugging into has MIDI out, and you take that MIDI out and go to main stage, and then you can use any drum kit in main stage. You can use a very expensive one, like a $700 one you pay for. You can use one that's built into Logic, but main stage is where you do that if you're going to do electronic drums. It's the same way they do synths now on stage as well. So you don't have to use one, but if you're going to do the built-in ones, and the 27 series and the 50 series from Roland are quite amazing for built-in.
Go ahead, Jason.
Only 2 things that I would add to that is, yes, +1 of the mesh heads, absolutely, they're fantastic. There is nothing on earth like hitting a cymbal and hitting a hi-hat. But if you're just starting out, don't even think about that. And get your drums on Craigslist, period. Like, just wait and find them, and you're going to save a ton of money.
Next question.
Next question coming in from Douglas Carmichael. The Elton John Farewell Yellow Brick Road Tour acknowledged the manufacturers that some of the software they use, like Gig Performer by Disque Technologies, could that be because the manufacturer provided licenses in exchange for said publicity?
Go ahead, Bill.
And not licenses. This at that level, at the level of an Elton John, yeah, if I had extra hands to indicate more and more money, you're talking a level of product placement that is insane. 7 figures and up easily without breaking a sweat. I was lucky enough to get to see his Red Piano tour in Las Vegas. And one of the first things I noticed was on the grand piano, which by the way is probably gutted and had a keyboard in it. It had Yamaha across it in 12-inch high letters. That is not done by accident. Every single thing a performer at that level does is contractually complex.
Yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, what Bill said, it'd be far more valuable than the price of the licenses. Elton John is an endorser, is a spokesman for Yamaha, and they provide all of his pianos. So there is a deal going on there. Rydell, Pepsi, and Diet Coke are listed as the only other endorsements that are handled by Elton.
Yeah, I think the Diet Coke's going to have to give more than just a bunch of unlimited supply of Diet Coke.
Big money changes hands for those endorsements.
Yeah, absolutely. Last comment for the first hour.
Chris Widener, Lafayette, Indiana. Carl, thanks for the recommendation for the Godox. I bought one as a backup and needed it Saturday due to interference at the conference I was working.
Fantastic, Carl. Well done.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Carl's here every Tuesday, or most Tuesdays. All right, we're now jumping to the second hour, and we're here with Audio Design Desk and Gabe Cowan. Hi, Gabe. How you doing?
Terrific.
Welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. So, can you tell us a little bit about what Audio Design Desk does?
Sure. First of all, I want to say I'm so happy to be hearing about John Bonham and Neil Peart with this group. It makes me feel right at home. And I have a TD-8, and I annoyed my parents plenty with the real drum kit and the saxophone and all of that early on.
Nice. Are you still playing drums?
I play a bit. I'm mostly a bass player. So
nice.
One of the things about being a bass player, actually, that might segue in nicely to what Audio Design Desk does. Just to give you a quick history on me. Second year in college, I was signed to Geffen Records. I got a couple platinum albums. I got to play with some of my heroes, Jackson Browne, Ry Cooder, Robbie Robertson, The Tower of Power. And Roger Corman hired me to score a film. And through that, I got exposure to independent filmmaking and just fell in love with it. And so I went back to school. I went to Cal Arts, got my master's degree in film directing. And I produced over 20 feature films and, bunches of other things. And one of the things you learn very quickly, especially on independent productions where you're bringing everything you know to each production, is how poorly thought through creating sound for video is.
Oh, yeah.
So about 6 years ago, I'm sitting, in front of a trailer that we're cutting, trying to find that rise to lead to the title at the end of the trailer. And I'm out on my desktop listening to the different rises because it takes too long in Pro Tools to double click on each thing, right? You can hit the space bar on the Finder and you're dragging them in, you're trimming them up, you're moving it over, you're untrimming it, you're listening to it. It's the wrong thing. You got to do it again. And it's just mind numbing. And then I had this realization, this is based on a tape machine. Right. All of these DAWs, they're all big, beautiful digital versions of tape machine.
Yeah. And
so I started to think, well, what would you do if you wanted to build something from the ground up to create audio for video?
Right.
A classification system for sound where each sound knows, understands its category, its subcategory type, and so on. Right. And also each sound would need to know where it syncs with video. Wow. And so I called up my old college roommate who had become a programmer of the early stages of YouTube and Apple TV. And he also is a terrific musician, played solo at Carnegie Hall. And we started building this thing. And we brought in a guy named Sam Music, who has a company called Elephant Sound. They did sound design for like Rogue One and Spider-Man and World War Z and stuff. And he gave 7,500 sounds to this kind of first incarnation of what we're building. And so basically we're trying to solve the problem of the, less hair pulling out is what we want, right? The problem of the frustration of making audio for video. So If I have share screen, I do. I'll do just a kind of a high level view. One of the things that
and just to interrupt you before you get started, while you're watching, for all of our producers out there that are watching, while Gabe goes through this, start throwing those questions in and let us know what you want to know about the product. Okay, go ahead, Gabe.
Just really quickly, I was noticing this morning in the latest builds, there was a little instability with Zoom. So we find that there's very little crashing, but it may not be the case in this demo. Right. We at the beginning of the year at CES, we were lucky enough to get best software from Video Maker, which is up here somewhere, and Apple reached out to us and asked if we would build a workflow extension for Final Cut Pro. And so that's what I'm going to show you now, which the program does work as a standalone application, Audio Design Desk, but we've sort of built this extension. So I'm going to click on our icon here, which will bring up the program, and then connect the two. And you'll see that the timelines, are in sync. So in my timeline here, I have like this trailer from The Strain and a little sequence from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then sort of a lonely person in outer space, just to highlight a couple of general sound needs. We've broken the thinking around sound into 3 categories: sound design, sound effects, and music. So with sound design, right, musical type elements that are built to accent visual moments, rises, hits, transitions, bringing you from one place to another. We've created these hotkeys on our keyboard. So if I go to this moment here where there's we see the title here, and I hit that rise, which I was looking for those years ago, I'll just hit the letter R. Let me get Zoom out of the way. Excuse me. Just make this a little bit bigger. You'll see that it brought it in based on the zenith of the rise. Well, and I'll bring in a hit too, just to kind of exemplify this. And can we hear this, by the way? You can hear me? Great. Okay. Yeah, so one of the things that's so fun about having sync markers for every kind of sound is I can then select these sounds and I can replace them with alternates. Replace again until I find what I want. So I can also focus it. I can say, I want a low intensity sounds. And so I'll go here and I'll hit replace, and you can see that's much lower intense. I can say organic or synthetic, light or dark, etc. So you can really focus the types of sounds that you want. And there's a bunch of other ways that you can dig down even deeper. But another way that you can interact with these sounds is I, as an editor anyway, often place markers as I'm editing, just to remind myself. I used to go through all those, spotting sessions. So I kind of will do it while I'm going so that I don't forget, or so that I can kind of export my marker list and instantly be in my spotting session. Well, what you can do inside of our system is you drag the project into our extension, and Audio Design Desk will say, do you want me to turn those into sounds? And if you say yes, it'll instantly populate the timeline. And, every time it's different, but now we've got this. Let's see it. And I'll replace it. Some of these aren't sounding right to me. Maybe like this. Maybe something like this. You can see it's about getting that first draft, right? I mean, in this case, I wasn't super crazy about this first draft, but often you get that first draft, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so you can
you can never show it to you as a producer. You can never show it to the producer, because as soon as you do it, they're like, okay, we're done. Let's go on to the next one. You're like, that was just the first one. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
But that's actually the point, is because in terms of being an editor myself and having clients, whenever the sound is, they think that the edit is better if the sound's better, right? They suddenly go, oh, you're such a, this is such a better edit when you just added footsteps or ambiances. So that's sound design. With sound effects, right? Things like whoosh, sword hits, sword clanks, footsteps, female vocalizations, and things like that. We've created the ability to put any types of sounds that you want onto the keys on your QWERTY keyboard. So in this case, I have whooshes on key number 1 and sword clanks on key number 2. And so
can you map those to actual keyboards as well? Is it just a MIDI map?
Oh yeah, you can map them to that sort of this MIDI thing here. Yes, you can map them to your MIDI keyboard as well. And it can go randomly or sequentially. I'm doing it randomly right now, but you can say, hey, I want them to be actually it is sequential. Let me go back to random. And so in real time, you can also do this at half speed, quarter speed, frame by frame, however you want. You can be creating, all of your Foley just by doing this. So here we go. So it's kind of that easy to, be making your first sound pass. Some people use this as with independent filmmakers, they might use this as, you'd export to Logic or to Pro Tools or to whatever whatever program you want. So for independent filmmakers, I do find that a lot of them are doing this as their, final thing as they go and they adjust.
That was all just hitting those keys. You're just watching that and just going,
Yeah,
it's like a stenographer for sound effects.
What I was going to say, on more professional productions, it's kind of like previs for sound. It's pre-sound.
Yeah.
So you can just at least get your and we have a couple clients that do previs, and it helps so much for them to show their clients what those pre-visualizations look like with some sounds in them. It just comes to light.
It's so much easier. Like, you're trying to show a scene, and always feel like from the scene from the Hudsucker Proxy, it's round for kids. Like, it's going to be a good scene, but they can't, they don't understand it because it doesn't have the effects. I worked on a little space movie, and we had this pod race that we were working on, and Ben Burt was editing the pod race, and it was fine. And then we got to sit in the theater the first time when he added here's my first pass at the effects. And I was like, you could release this right now. Like, I don't need it to, the sound effects are, 60-70% of the film.
It is amazing. All the tests that have been done, you've probably heard about the one where they show the same audience. I'm sorry, two different audiences, the same film. One loses the visual and the other loses the sound. The one that loses the visual, they'll watch for 5 minutes, but the one that loses the sound, they'll watch for only 30 seconds. That gives you a sense of, how important sound is for people. Doing a big trailer and a big action scene is really fun, and it's kind of splashy. But for most editors, day-to-day editing, it comes down to a couple of problems, right? A couple of problems that we're trying to solve anyway, which is like finding the right music cue. In our system, right, and the way it works now, I think I set this up, is, you go to one of these websites where, by the way, they're showing you a video editor inside of Premiere. That's not what actually happens. What actually happens is this video editor would be leaving Premiere, going out to a website. There are some extensions in Premiere, but they're not that much better. It's totally disconnected from from my creative experience. I'm going onto a website, I'm filtering, I'm trying to find the right thing. I'm guessing because I'm not watching, I'm not listening with my video edit. So in our system, let me get back to Final Cut. Here we go. In our system, I'm just going to hit the letter Z, and it's randomly going to bring in a piece of music. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of narrow it down to the thing that I want. But it's fun to experiment and have this idea of replacement and discovery with that. So actually, that's a good one. But I'm just going to hit replace. Replace again. Let's have it be comedy. So I'll just click on comedy here. And now I replace. Here, let's try this. Or let's say motion. So it's quite simple to narrow down, the cue that you're looking for. To me, this person in outer space could be a rock tune. It could be sort of anything. All right. This is like our Jimmy Stewart looking at food and then looking at a woman in a bikini. The next piece, so that's finding the right piece of music. The next thing that I need all the time as a video editor is accenting things like my transitions. And this is what we find with a lot of our kind of creator, clients, people, YouTubers and so forth, is that they want all of their transitions that they spend so much time on to be accented by sound, and they do really come to life. So in our system, there's no emotional transitions. I have to reset my replacement here. So I'm just going to hit the letter T, and then there's a transition. I can just hit replace, and let's try it one more. So it's just the easiest thing to kind of go in, and then I can narrow it down. I can say, hey, you know what? I want this to be a whoosh. And then it'll narrow it down from what was probably about 1,500 files to only the transitions with whooshes in it. Or I can say I want it to be a low intensity short whoosh. And now you can see it's 70 files. And then whenever I hit replace on that sound, it'll just be pulling from that pool. The last thing I'll show is a title. So same thing, like watching a title without sound, it's just not alive. But if you add some sounds, so I'll say, okay, a couple transitions here and a hit as it's coming in, and then a few transitions as it's coming out. And let's hear that. Well, I wasn't crazy about one of them, but there we go. It was just that easy to start to bring things to life and to have this idea of discovery and replacement. Really quickly, so bringing it into back into Final Cut, I just click import and I can drag this in. We're working with the Apple guys to remove a couple of the clicks I'm about to have to do, including the one I just did. You do have to double click and then, select all and go to your sequence and then go to the beginning. Go to the beginning of your sequence and paste. But you can see one of the things that's so great about Final Cut, I love these audio rolls. And all those audio rolls are maintained. And if you're continuing to edit, you'll see all the attachments between each of those sword hits and so forth are maintained. And so that's kind of the 20,000 foot view. Obviously, we work with everything from, Pro Tools to we have the tightest integration with a video editor with Final Cut Pro, but we certainly work with Premiere and Resolve and, all of the rest and can, directly be linked to Logic or Pro Tools or whatever.
It's amazing. Because I think that the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, even on the largest films, that you never finish the film. You just run out of time. And so everything that saves you a little bit of time is going to mean that you're just more creative because you have, there's this shot from the thing of Man on Fire. I wish you had more time, and we say that over and over again. Sometimes it's because you just always wish you had another day or another week or whatever. And those days and weeks were taken away by you having to search through libraries and try to figure stuff out and do reshoots and everything else. Now, where do all these samples come from?
We've been making them. So we have about 50,000. They're all royalty free. We also, I didn't show you this, but you can create your own music using this system. We have these music construction kits that understand tempo and key and things. So you can make, many thousands of variations of your own music cues. And we also are about to be integrated with virtually every service. I'll give you a sneak peek of something. We haven't launched this yet, but we can keep this between us, right?
Yeah, we're not going to YouTube or anything. It's
right. No, right.
Fine.
But we do. So we are building out something that we're calling the Browse tab. It's for any stock media service. And, so if you belong to Envato or whatever it is that you belong to, we'll tag these sounds, we'll organize them for you. And one of the other things is it's not just audio. If you were to, let me find my little Browse tab here. Later today, I'm going to have a easier button to click. Where is this thing? Stock media. So if it was video that you downloaded, you can just drag that video. You can look at it inside of the view here, and you can just drag it right into Final Cut Pro. So you can download it, use our system to download, to categorize, to help organize all of your stock media assets. I don't know about you guys, but the idea that I have to go to my downloads folder and somehow organize it, drag it into it blows my mind. So we're trying to solve that problem too. And in about a month, we'll have this released as well.
Yeah, I know that for me, I do exactly what you're talking about. I get a lot of stuff on Epidemic because it's got it. They handle the licensing for YouTube and everything else. And so I find myself downloading the pieces and then pulling them all in and then trying to figure it out and then going up and getting another one. And so it's just that one feature would be worth it for me just to be able to bring that stuff in. So
it'll be a standalone application too. So
now are you putting the tags into their stuff as well? So the hits and when it should add and so on and so forth?
Yeah. So with Epidemic, if I was to download, I don't even know what this music cue is, but one of the cool things about Epidemic is they let you download stems. So if I did download the stems, it'll, take a second. And Audio Design Desk is going to ask me if I want it to auto tag those stems. And so in a moment.
So the tech goes through and finds the things that it thinks are going to be what you want.
Right. And so if they're red, it will tag it right. Right. Okay. So yeah. So it did guess that these pieces were music, but we can also, there's kind of a fun thing where I can say, okay, let's take our main mix here. And then I can just cycle through the stems. Oops. Sorry. Here we go. Go to the next stem. Let me go a little later so we're not distracted by that. As I go to the next stem, go to the next stem. And so I can be quickly putting these things together and remixing. And over time, like in the next couple of months, not like later next year, it'll also do sort of the Sensei thing, right? Like they have in Premiere, where we can essentially auto generate music edits for you.
Wow. It's really cool. All right, let's jump into the questions. There's a lot of them stacking up. Let's go to the first question.
First question from Douglas Carmichael. I've used video sync from non-lethal applications to successfully score a short video. With Bitwig Studio, by creating markers for hit points in the video, can ad be useful for music composition workflows?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if I'm set up to really show this. Let me just give me 1 second here. My eyesight's not what it once was. Yes. So let me, I'll make that happen now. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. The system is fairly flexible, but I'll just bring up, this is what we call our trigger pad. Let me make it a little smaller. And if we go to the music side, you'll see that we've got, the essential elements of music composition: beat, bass, chord, line, lead, etc. So if I go to the beginning, actually, let me not have it linked to Final Cut so we're not distracted by the images there. And I'll get rid of the tracks. If I say, give me a beat, let me make this bigger so we can see.
A bouncy beat.
A bouncy beat, right. And again, I can just replace, till you find something you like. Say that that's the one we like. I'm going to say, okay, you're the master tempo. So everything that I now bring in after that is going to be time stretched to match. And now let's bring in a bass line. So let's say that let me try one more. Let's say that we like that. And then I can say, okay, give me a lead. I can say, hey, you know what? I want this to be a flute. And I think we have some flutes. Yeah, so there's 24 flute leads in this kind of sequence. And maybe we'll switch that to destructive. So
I'm getting like a bunch of wide shots from a 70s film as I listen to it right now.
Totally right. Feather in the cap. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of different, this is a funk piece, but you could do this with, if I chose a different pack. So we have these music construction kicks. I was working with our James King sax pack there, but if I work with the Marvel pack, it's a similar thing where, I kind of go through and try to find let's say this is more of a cinematic pack where I'm going to bring in bass now. And let's bring in a chord. We'll see how that maybe I'll bring in some percussion. So again, obviously this is just all on the fly. And you can also do it if you're snapping to beat or bar, a little bit like you do in live, where you can do it in real time. So I can say, okay, let's bring in a lead. So anyway, the answer is yes. you can use this to generate your own music.
You go ahead, Chris.
I'm just curious. There's some similarities. Are you familiar with a company called Exhale?
No, I'm not.
We should talk.
Okay, great. I'd love to.
There is some. This is a beautiful, hyper polished version of what they tried to do on the web. Super interesting.
Yeah, I just, again, there's so many, we try to tell people that you should, there's all this needle drop stuff, and I use that, again, specifically for Epidemic most of the time, but a lot of times I try to just create stuff, whether I go into Logic or I used to go into GarageBand to build those things, because then it's yours. It's something that's very specific to you. You have much less chance of having some kind of copyright, a flag, and it's original, and you can sit there with, and I've never seen anything go so fast. like I was watching, I'm sure you're good at it. I mean, you've done this before, so it might take me a little longer for the first time. I get that, but at the same time, just the idea of being able to look at a scene and throw stuff together it's really exciting. Let's go to the next question.
Next question from Douglas again, and he wants to know, how do you tag sounds in your library and find the specific hit points? Do the sound effect library's vendors provide the tags, or is the tagging done by the user?
So we have an importer that's pretty smart. I don't want to overstate how smart it is. Here's the importer, and you can import about 10,000 sounds at a time. And if you push this guess metadata, guess sync markers, it gets you pretty close. Let's say 65, 70% of the way there. But the coolest piece of this is that there's a machine learning algorithm. So the challenge is that there is no consistency, right? We're trying to find consistency inside of our metadata tagging in sound now, but there hasn't been historically. And so what our system's actually doing, as people on this call know, is it's guessing 100 guesses, and it's saying, this is my number one guess, and that's what it puts. Well, if you correct it, it'll say, oh, actually, that was my number 6 guess. Why was I wrong? And as you go through and you correct it, let's say you give it 20 minutes of your time, it will gain confidence in terms of future guesses and be able to tag those sync markers and all of your metadata better.
And does that improve it for your experience or for everyone's experience?
Just your experience, because the idea is that you have your own library. Maybe you're using Sound Ideas, which is tagged and named totally differently than other people's libraries. Over time, we will be opening up a cloud system, but obviously there's privacy concerns, and we want to make sure everybody's safe and private.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, if it was anonymized, I could see you have thousands of people using it, and as they correct it, it figures out when you download whatever libraries, if a couple other people have used it, it's more accurate.
It should know that entire library, in fact, as people are using it that way.
Yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
Gabe, congratulations on a great program. I'm an old time guy that used to spot effects and find CDs and roll them into it, and take ages and ages to get a certain look and feel. And your workflow, which I'm most interested in, eliminates a lot of the repetitive and time-consuming aspects of spotting and making a great soundtrack. And this is more of an observation and the uniqueness of what your program does. In most big productions, not film necessarily, but let's say corporate and commercial work in a typical studio, the audio guy, which was me, is the last one to get the production, and usually the least amount of time to do things. So the significance of what you're offering is the ability to overcome the repetitive workflow issues so that you can spend more time on the creative issues. And for that, I salute you. I think it's a wonderful piece. And quick question, does it work with Premiere?
It does, not in the same way. So import, export, very soon it will be similar to Premiere. And in fact, again, this is probably 6 months away. Our Premiere extension is probably August. So what I showed you in Final Cut will exist in Premiere in August. But by the beginning of next year, we'll also have solved reconforming. Wow. So you can be doing your thing, they can be editing, and you'll click update, and you'll click update, and it will update.
Yeah, just the idea that I have more time to spend on doing what I want to do and being creative and not being shoved into a corner somewhere and say, you only get an hour. And it's like, what?
Oh, I know. It's totally unfair.
Well, and again, I think that the other thing is that the editor being able to just slam some stuff in there, because it changes the way you edit when you can hear the sound effects. So once you start, I know that I've put together a scene and then I've handed it off to a sound person. They hand it back to me and I go, oh, I need to recut this and this and this, because it's once I have those beats. And then even if it's just, you're just sending a scratch to your, larger film production, the editor can now just say, well, this is what I was thinking when I was cutting it. Now the sound designers now have a sense of where they were going with it, even if they end up going out and recording it themselves, with a setup, there. Go ahead, Courtney.
Really interesting product. I'm interested in how the importer works and the AI works. Are the tags that you create and all the metadata that you create, categorizing the type of sound, the beats, the sync points, etc., are those stored in chunks and metadata in a broadcast wave file, or are they a separate database that's linked through a UIC label within a file? How's the database maintained, and does the data travel with the file itself?
It does.
As a separate chunk, or do you have to maintain a separate database that's linked?
It's inside the file. That's how we do it. You can export a CSV if that's your workflow, but by default, it saves in the file, whether it's.
And what type of file types do you support for importing? It's just WAV files or MP3 files, or?
I think pretty much everything from FLAC to MP3 to M4A to AAC. AAC has a little bit of trouble in terms of some metadata tags, but we're working on that.
And is it just stereo, or do you support surround formats?
Right now, it's just stereo.
Okay,
Surround
Chris.
is definitely something we're working on.
Tell me when. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm super very easy jump to Pro Tools, which I can show you a little bit later if you're interested.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm super impressed, Gabe. You said that by August you'll have this in Premiere. They've been bound by the constraints of tracks for 30 plus years now, and you're going to get rolls into Premiere. I'm super impressed with.
Oh wait, I'm not saying we'll have rolls.
He just dropped it. Oh, that was I'm
not saying we're going to get rolls.
That's rolled. That was an FCP troll. That was an FCP troll.
Premiere could use a little help.
Go ahead, Sky.
Well, as an editor, I'm stunned, and whooshing sound is my credit card trying to get out of my wallet. Now, I assume this is going to be like a subscription concept.
We have whatever you want. We have perpetual, we have subscription, we have different tiers. It's $30 a month is the highest tier, and I think it's I forget exactly. I think it might be $300 a year or $600 for the perpetual.
I just think of I've tried Sonic and having the different abilities to do separations of things, but yeah, this is an amazing tool. Thank you.
Yeah. And next question.
Oh, that's me. I'm still figuring out how amazed I am. Felix LG Robillard in Montreal. Can we use third-party sound effects in music libraries? Something like Boom Library, for instance. Love the simplicity of the app. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's funny. We were actually in touch with Boom this morning. They now have a deal, I think, with Artlist. So if you are an Artlist subscriber, you'll get all of Boom's sounds. And yes, you can bring in whatever sounds you want, tag them the way that you want. We're pretty good at it, like I showed you. And we get even better if you give it some updates.
That's amazing. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asked, can Add integrate with mastering plugins like Isotope, Ozone, or is that outside of the app scope?
No, that's a really good question. And there's so many things that I didn't show. So, we obviously you can put things on your master bus, whatever your plugins might be. You can put them on tracks. If I make the track a little bit bigger, you'll see there's an effects window here. But the way that I do it is I do region-based plugins. So I might put something like a reverb on just this one footstep, or what is the sword hit or whatever. And then we have a really easy way you can see, and let me zoom in a little bit. You can see there's a little lightning bolt indicating that there's an effect on that track, on that region. If I copy that region and I want to apply that effect, and this goes for all of these things, right? Effects, pitch shift, time stretch, panning if you want. I can copy that and apply it to, let's say I want to go to these two with pasting attributes, and boom, it'll be on these two as well. So yeah, we fully support plugins, and we love our plugins.
How long have you been working on this?
It started 6 years ago, but it's really been 2 years, a little
It's
more.
been a rough spring.
No, it's just like, I was like, how have I not heard about this for so long? Like, it's so mature. Like we throw you a curve and you're like, oh yeah, this is how you do that. I'm just like, what? All right. The next
One thing, if I could just, I know that this wasn't a specific question, but it sort of came up as some other questions were being asked. If the editor is in there doing that, for their director, or for their producer or whatever, and they hand this over, one of the things, to the sound designer, one of the things that's so great is all of these sync points, are maintained, but you can replace all of these sounds instantly. So if I could just take 1 second here to show you.
Absolutely.
Here, so let me see if these two are, no, they're not still linked. Here's how I'm going to link them. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to grab my Final Cut link. Here we go. Okay. So like if we, I can basically instantly turn this into a lightsaber battle, because one of the things is that our timeline is content aware. So it knows everything that's in the timeline. So I can say, let's take our swords hitting swords here, and let's type in lightsaber. Oh gosh, I hope I have them in this pack. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we're going to take those and we're going to turn them into lightsaber, and you'll see instantly they turn into lightsaber hits, and we'll go to our whooshes. I guess maybe they are swishes. No, they're whooshes. My bad. Here you go. Whooshes, whoosh. And we'll find lightsaber whips. And in, however long that took, oops, wrong button. Now it's a lightsaber battle. So the point being that even if the sound designer feels that the
oh my gosh, that's great.
I'm gonna
take my money.
Sit on loop.
yeah, exactly. All right, next question.
Once again, I'm still agog. Sky Gleason from Seattle, Washington. How big is the audio library that comes with your tool?
It's it's growing every week. It's now about 350 gigs. Personally, on my laptop, I use the AAC files, which are about 1/10 of the size. So I have about 35 gigs here. And then when I go to my desktop, it'll just update them to WAV.
Next question.
John Foltz. Go ahead.
Are you on an M1 or is this cross-platform?
It's a Mac only.
There you go.
And I'm on an M1 right now. We are a silicone native, Mac silicone native. And we also have a little baby MacBook, not Pro, that we test on to make sure that everything works for for slower computers. It's pretty efficient, the system.
Next question.
And John Foltz from Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. Do you offer educational considerations or discounts?
Absolutely. Reach out to us.
Next question.
I still want one so bad. Bill Davis from San Diego. You're killing me here. This looks like it's going to cut hours off my comping and approvals workflow. Well done.
Thank you. That's what we hope.
Did you want to add something, Bill, or is that?
Well, I just did. I've been talking since the earliest days of Final Cut about how metadata is just saturated through the entire program. And I have never seen a company integrate that or leverage that better in terms of really cutting down the amount of time from comping to final. This is going to be transformative. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, that's great. Next question.
Mickey Makikor from Philippines. When layering music and design elements, does add take elements keys into account to avoid dissonance?
Yes.
That's great. Great answer. Yeah, that's great. Next question.
Robert Shoji from Los Angeles. Could your guest please explain again the workflow between Audio Design Desk and Final Cut Pro?
Sure. I'll just do it really quickly. So if I hide this, and I'm going to delete everything. One of the fun things is, think about how long it would have taken you to do that work in some other program. But for us, it's like, oh, just delete it. You can do it again. It'll take 2 minutes. We have this workflow extension. And through the workflow extension, you can launch, open and connect to Audio Design Desk. And now the the programs are linked. If I click on this, connect to Final Cut Pro. And then the way that they're connected is several ways. Like I can control Final Cut through this window if I want. So you can see I'm controlling both of them. I can also, add sounds this way in trigger mode. So I'm bringing it in. Typically, I go to Audio Design Desk instead of doing it through here. But so the extension does have a lot of things that it can do. You can also import your project or bounce if you've just got a little section that you want to bounce. One of the cool things about bounce is, let me make the selection here, is it's pretty smart. So it brings the playhead to where the beginning of your bounce is. Because that was one issue we were having, like, how is the user going to know exactly where that bounce starts? So we jump your Final Cut playhead and then you can just drag it in, and there it is. So that's sort of a quick overview, but this will be on YouTube. And I think I showed the whole thing a little earlier.
Next question.
Mickey Makachor from Philippines. Where was, my brain is so scrambled looking at this thing. Where was ADD's library sourced? What percentage is original and how much original sound effects and music is regularly being created?
Well, we turn out packs every week. We have a team of between 6 and 8 composers and sound designers that are constantly making sounds. We also just made a deal with a third-party company to get another 30,000 sound effects. And so we're constantly putting out sounds. Is that the question?
Yeah. I want to be one of those 6 to 8 people that are just like, your job is to make sounds. Like just make a group of sounds for a collection. That'd be a lot of fun. Are they all over the world, or are they somewhere specific?
Most of them are in the United States. Most of them are in Los Angeles, actually. That's where we're located. But there's a few in Portland, and there's one guy in Brooklyn.
That's great. Next question.
Alex 4D Gallner from London, UK. Would you like to be able to synchronize Audio Design Desk with iMovie?
I don't think that's possible. I mean, maybe that's a better question for the other people here. I took a quick look and didn't think that was possible.
No, I think the only way you'd be able to do it is to basically export a movie out, bring it into something, just score the whole thing, and then push it back out as a file that you'd bring into iMovie. Like there wouldn't be any, I don't think there'd be any dynamic connections. It would just be, when you're finished, you could just throw it all together and have it redeliver it. Mm-hmm. Next question.
Mickey is back from the Philippines. How are elements created when sequences are exported as AAF? Are they separated per element?
It's up to you. So let me just show you that workflow really quick. Oh, let me undo and get everything back. Hopefully everything's back. Yes. Okay, let me get rid of this epidemic thing. So let's say that whatever program you want to go to, we have this idea of export and open in. We're just trying to remove more clicks. It's like there's too many clicks in the world. So if I wanted to go out to, Logic, I'd click here. Let's say that we want to go to Pro Tools. We want an AAF, which was the question. I can decide I'm going to organize the timeline, which is something that I didn't show, but I find that I need my timelines to be organized, which is a command that we have inside of the application. And then you can choose whether to preserve your handles, or if you added a bunch of effects and fades, you might want to burn those in. So let's say preserve handles here and include fades. And export, it'll take a second. I have to name it. And then it'll open Pro Tools right up. Let's see, create. And okay, and it should all just populate. Yeah, so everything's here in Pro Tools. That's how long it takes. So in this case, we do have all of the individual elements. If you want to make them one region, that's something that you can do really easily by saying, again, let's take these sword hits. Now those are all selected, and if I hit this button here, they become one region, or I can select all of these things and say, okay, let's name it, and now it's one region. But if I want, I can double click on this and see all of the individual files. So we actually have this kind of timeline in a timeline idea.
That's great. Next question.
And Courtney Gooden from Hollywood, California. He's got a question. Do you have to obtain a license from a sound library and then create your own metadata manually for each cue?
I'm not sure that I understand the question. Yeah, if you're going to use somebody's sounds, you should definitely license them. Somebody worked on them and deserves to be paid. And assuming that you have that license, you can drag them right into our importer, and we'll guess some metadata, and we get it pretty close, and then you can adjust it to make sure that it's right for you.
Good, Courtney.
Yeah, you had answered my question kind of earlier by showing the your importer that imports it from a library. So that kind of answered the question. But yeah, and for the sounds that you include, you obtain your own licenses or create your own sounds, and then attach the metadata to them and provide them with the program itself, right?
Yeah, the program comes with the license. There's 2 tiers. One is a personal, you guys are used to this stuff, personal license and professional license. We're trying to keep it really simple. And another thing we're trying to do is just gain adoption and get more user feedback and make the product better. So we're trying to keep our prices reasonable enough so that we're constantly gaining users and gaining feedback.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael, could ADD be used for theater sound design if you could connect your product to a script writing application like Final Draft?
Roscoe, did you have a note about that?
Yeah, I guess basically you kind of showed it. You can build a sequence and then you can export them as individual files. I'm not thinking Final Draft. I'm just thinking then you could sequence it in a live performance like QLab, but you've built the sequence of the effects in your timeline. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, so we do have a lot of live streamers that do this live, and it's being increasingly used in like school plays and things like that. No more with the person with with the shoes and the door. All of that stuff is really easy to program, and there's also a fun element if you use the randomization of it, so that it'll never.
But then, could you export each of those individual files and sequence them in QLab or some other sequencer? That's easily done, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a really interesting idea. To like take a movie of it, get all the effects. So you shoot a play, and then you get and then you go in and just sit there and do all the effects for it, and then pump it out to something that can be queuable.
Totally changes tech week in a play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Okay. My mind is kind of wandering off into what we can do with that. All right, next question.
Jeffrey Powers from Madison, Wisconsin. Can this be used for game design?
Yes, we have a lot of game designers that are using it, and we have a partnership with a company called Epic Stock Media, and they do a lot of great game sounds. And in the next couple of weeks, they'll be rolling out their packs.
The next question.
Bill Davis from San Diego wants to know, in the coming product, can the user add a custom search tag to the media being indexed?
No, you mean, can you add new tags? Like I want to put, I'm trying to think of what I want to put. Instrument, for example, isn't a current tag.
Right.
No, not right now.
Not right now. And so we can't add metadata like the keyword system and Final Cut in this one.
You can of course add the metadata. If I understand the question correct, you can add any of these fields. But I thought that the question was, can you create your own field? Like, can you create, again, we don't have instrument as a field currently. So of course you can add any keywords, and it's really easy to copy paste and add to multiple sounds. But if you wanted to create your own field, that's not something that we allow for yet. And there's a couple reasons for that.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, if I'm importing a sound library or something like that in the new product that you mentioned, is there a way for me to tag that for a particular project so that the sounds that I'm bundling into it can be separated from the overall sound library?
Yes, there's a couple of ways to do that. So first of all, if you export a sound pack, that will all be contained in its own, special place. And then that's how I was able to make those. Let me get rid of this window. Sorry, 1 second. That's how I was able to make those music cues, by selecting an individual sound pack. But also we're playlist based. So like most of our clients, right? So that's what we're constantly doing. Like, I'm doing a horror film on Sunday and a comedy on Monday. And so you can just switch from one playlist to another, and all of your placement and replacements will only come from those playlists.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's great, Roscoe.
Yeah, and if I can't add a field, I can certainly hijack an existing field that may be a minor field to me and put my own data in there and search on that, correct?
Yes.
Good, Courtney.
And what you just showed there in the example looked like the ID3 tag categories. Do you have your own schema and use IXML with modify? Do you create the schema that your database is organized on, or do you have to use existing labels that are out industry standards?
We created this system, which is ID3, and also. I'm sorry. What's the XML variant that
IXML.
IXML uses? IXML. Yes, right. Sorry, it's been an early day. The main fields for us, if you want to be talking about this replacement idea, are these four. If you have category, subcategory, type, and subtype, replacement will work because it understands. Oh, I am a sound effect that is an element, that is a weapon, and is a sword hitting a sword. And our replacement algorithm is, you can totally manage it. So you can say, you know what, I only want it to replace from the same subtype. But a lot of times it's fun to just turn everything off and replace and have it go crazy. And all of a sudden your drum beats are populated with, breaths and vocalizations and, footsteps and so forth.
That's great. Next question.
Guy Gleason from Seattle, Washington. Do you have the Willem Scream?
We do have access to all of freesound.org sounds. And so yes.
Take my money. Take my money.
You got to have the Wilhelm scream.
You got to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Next question.
Aaron Gencarelli from Flagstaff, Arizona. Since we are all downloading this program, what is the after hours training day?
Dave, I don't know. I don't think you know what after hours is, but right after the show ends, we go into after hours, which lasts until the next show starts. So we do sessions in there. We're probably going to try to drag you into a session some afternoon where we just spend, a whole bunch of people open it up and we spend a couple hours with you or somebody like helping us play with it if you're open to that. So
I love it, of course.
Please. All right. So stay tuned for that. We're a geeky crowd, so there'll be like 100 people in there with it open and trying to make it work. So stay tuned. All right, next question.
Douglas Carmichael, how do you see AD competing with Virtual Katie, which has a longer history in the audio post market?
I don't know enough about Virtual Katie to speak intelligently about it.
There we go. Next question.
Mickey Macacor from Philippines. Any plans on making a standalone app that interfaces with Pro Tools similar to industry standards like SoundMiner?
It does currently work a bit like that. So MIDI machine control, it'll link to Pro Tools. It feels like a plugin. It's quite quick. It's about 3 or 4 frames for them to start together. You can drag right from one program. Well, you can drag right from Audio Design Desk into Pro Tools. And of course, I showed you what it's like to export, an entire session to Pro Tools. It's not exactly the same as SoundMiner, but we're getting increasingly sophisticated at this, and it's already pretty good.
Next question.
Jeffrey Powers, Madison, Wisconsin. Will you be at NAMM or Cinegear? If so, our teams would love to spend some good time at your booth.
Please, we'll be at NAMM. We were at NAB. We were lucky enough to win a couple of awards there, and we're excited right over. I'm not showing them off.
You have to.
And we'll be at NAMM in the software section.
Yeah, that's great. Next question.
Roscoe Jones from Brea, California. Is everything to be added a file? Is there any file editing inside of AD? And does this work well for Foley effects?
Yes. So just to give a really quick example, I'm going to go to this Browse tab and I'm going to go to Art List. Just so that I can show you what it's like with a sound that we never used. So I'll just say a footstep, and hopefully this will work. We'll say show results. Does it show results? What's happening here? This is Art List. This isn't us. And also it's a thing that's are we in footstep land? Sorry, 1 second here. Okay, that's a single footstep, but what I want is a stem of footsteps. Let's try for, Give me 1 more second and I'm going to give up on this. Let me try Forest Run. Okay, great. So we have a bunch of footsteps here. I'm going to download them. and it'll take just a moment. And once they're downloaded, it's going to guess the metadata. Actually, I can see that it got it right, but I'll just show it to you. Let me get rid of this. So you can see that it actually only guessed that it was a sound effect stem, and that's not right. It is a footstep. So again, as we get into this, it'll get even better. It does know that it's from Artlist. But if I double click on this and I bring up my element detector, I can break these into individual footsteps, and then I can perform them. So if I say, okay,
oh man, you're killing me here.
And it really only takes a moment, and then you can instantly be throwing them to a trigger and performing them.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, next question.
Yeah, my brain blew up again. Sky Gleason from Seattle, Washington. I assume you could use Stream Deck as a controller.
I'm so glad you asked. I always forget to talk about that. Yes, we have a really cool Stream Deck integration where all of your, yes, and if you go to their site, you go to their widget or whatever it's called and download the Audio Design Desk extension, you can control virtually, you can do everything that I did just with Stream Deck.
Amazing. Next question.
Mickey Makikor from Philippines again. I can imagine using Add to quickly draft and throw ideas into a timeline. Is there any support for region group or clip group workflows found in DAWs?
In terms of editing groups, yes, it's very, Command G, select some sounds and Command G, and suddenly they function as one thing. But in terms of as a mixing board, not yet.
Next question.
Like auxes and submixes and so on.
Douglas Carmichael, would you ever think of adding connectivity to external databases, servers like PostgreSQL or MySQL for sharing a sound effects database across a large work group?
Yes. Well, first of all, it does, if you're working off of a single server, you're working in a group and there's an editor and it does work that way now. But in terms of working in the cloud, if that's the question, we are working towards that to make it so that everyone can contribute to this platform and, have their own cloud system.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael is back. You mentioned connecting Add to, I'm sorry, Alex, I keep mispronouncing it, Ableton?
Ableton, yeah.
Ableton Live. What are the use cases for that? And could it also connect to Bitwig Studio if Bitwig could generate MTC?
Bitwig does generate MTC, and it works great with Bitwig. It's like a single click. Bitwig is so easy. Ableton is, first of all, I love Ableton Live. I went from Pro Tools to Ableton. They gave it for free, which was the worst idea ever because suddenly now I'm only using Ableton, not using Pro Tools. But Ableton requires a third-party plugin in order to receive and send MTC. But that's on our website, and it's a real easy thing to do. The use case would be this idea of randomization. So you're creating, let's say, your piece, and you've got your bass lines and your guitar parts, and you want to try out different drum beats against it, and say, hey, let me just try, let's try a halftime thing, let's try a Latin thing, let's try a reggae thing. That would be a use case.
Chris?
I know this is unrelated, but I just caught a message through Discord from JJ, and he says, never in my life have I wanted a Macintosh computer until now.
That is high praise coming from JJ.
So he makes fun of us using Macs all the time, and then now he's like, "Oh, look what we have." We're going to remind JJ all the time, but we have Audio Design Desk. All right, next question.
And it looks like the last question here. This is from not quite. Douglas Carmichael, have you thought about reaching out to sound effect vendors like Sound Ideas to provide pre-tagged libraries for ad users?
We're working on that. That's part of what we're working with Boom on.
And what do you, have you thought about a market? I mean, I think we might have asked this before, but a marketplace that individuals can upload sounds and music and so on and so forth and tag them all and have them there that you could see them and buy them and then just put them into your system?
Yes. So believe it or not, it's actually been more complicated to build that than it is to build this professional application. Yeah. But it is something we've been working on for about a year, a little more than a year. And I don't have an update on exactly when it'll launch, but we're absolutely working on that.
Yeah,
we want this to be a place where sound makers, musicians can create and monetize their work and upload and contribute to the system, whether they want to give their things away for free or be discovered and used and to monetize their pieces.
I do a lot of work in Africa, and when you have that ready, we'll set up studios in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Rwanda, Nigeria, and we'll start dumping it with African beats.
You and I need to get to, because I spent several months in Rwanda doing a documentary there. So we have a Rwanda. I have
a school in Rwanda. So we'll talk more about that. So anyway, yeah. So we train media professionals in Rwanda. We've got a couple, almost 500 that we've trained there, and so it's so we would definitely build something that is just designed to get African. I just love African beats. so Mbira, drums, everything. So we'll talk more about that. I'd be super excited.
Yeah.
Gabe, thank you so much for your time.
You guys.
For the little backstory for everyone is that this was recommended to me. I didn't really know what it was. I kind of missed some emails with Gabe. It kind of came up all at the last minute. And he said, sure, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, I hope this turns out well.
This was amazing.
One of the best hours we've had, best second hours we've had. I mean, just a great presentation and just an insanely great tool. So I hope that this is the beginning of us all working together a lot. So.
And Gabe, Exhale with just the letter X, exhale.com. You should take a look at it and feel free to reach out to us. I'd love to talk to you also.
But we're
great. I will. Thank you.
You want me to create again. It feels so good to not have all the barriers.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
Never in all my years of reading questions have I been so distracted with the possibilities. And then Alex says, next question, and I have no idea what language I'm speaking.
Yeah. So anyway, just an amazing product and an amazing demo. So thank you so much for your time. And we will we'll talk more. All right. Thanks so much.
Wait. Thank you, guys.
All right. See everybody. I threw everybody a gap because I usually thank everybody, and then thanks to the panelists, I was already taken away.
Alex, you're at about
I forgot my clothes.
left.
I forgot my clothes. After that, it was like so thanks to the producers.
That
thanks
went
to the
well.
panelists. Thanks to the producers.
Cross-platform version.
I don't think he's going to. It'd be too hard because their PCs are PCs.
Buy a Mac.
The old days we had to.
This episode on Buy a Mac. We're going to talk with Gabe from Audio Design Desk.
Can you do a Willem scream on a Mac?